Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for African News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, there are warnings that Ebola has spread at an unprecedented rate as Liberia confirms its first cases and Senegal shuts its borders to Guinea. Also, a bomb blast rips through little Somalia in Nairobi. Our correspondent brings us the latest. And we head to Brussels for the latest on efforts to hold up violence in Central African Republic as efforts continue to get EU peacekeeping troops deployed. First up, the Ebola outbreak that has killed dozens in Guinea has become an unprecedented epidemic, according to international aid workers. Now, 78 people have died in Guinea, with cases distributed amongst the town of Gwekdu, Macenta, and the capital, Conakry, itself. Now, for the first time, there's confirmation that the virus has spread beyond international borders, with confirmed cases in Liberia, 2 definite ones there, one of which has been fatal. Now, Sierra Leone's identified 2 suspected fatal cases of Ebola in the northern Foya district. Meanwhile, Senegal's closed its borders with Guinea until further notice, whilst authorities there struggle to get in front of the outbreak.
In Guinea's southern forests, the epicentre of the Ebola virus, MSF staff have been working round the clock for the past 2 weeks. In Gwekdu, staff have been keeping sufferers hydrated so they can produce antibodies to flush the virus out of their system. But victory is not assured. We are dealing with the most aggressive strain of Ebola. It is a strain which kills 9 out of 10 people. There is no treatment. There is no medicine which specifically targets the virus. Despite best efforts by MSF, the virus is continuing to spread, and the toll is getting worse. 78 people have already died and 120 infected across the country. In his first message to the nation, the president said he was concerned. I'm putting out a call to the people to abide by the measures indicated by medical professionals. I also call on people not to give in to panic or listen to rumours which, in such circumstances, make matters worse. There's also been concern in neighbouring Senegal. Dakar has closed its border with Guinea, and the government has released 145 million CFA francs, around €222,000, to tackle the epidemic.
It's better to prevent than cure, but there are no suspect or confirmed cases in Senegal. But that's not to say that we will not take the appropriate measures. And that's why we're working and preparing and hoping that we will not be affected by this epidemic.
Confirmed cases have already been recorded in Côte d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone and Liberia, including several deaths.
Now, Uganda's president says that he is mobilising to fight gay people from the West who he accuses of promoting homosexuality across Africa. He launched fresh condemnation of gay rights on Monday as campaigners mobilised once more to fight a bill that he signed into law last month, which brought in tougher penalties for homosexuality. Julia Seeger has more.
They're determined to pursue their fight to overturn the law. On Monday, Uganda gay rights activists filed another legal petition against the Anti-Homosexuality Act, which was signed into law a month ago by President Museveni. It calls for tougher penalties against gays and prescribes life in jail for repeat homosexuals. Critics say the legislation flouted procedural requirements and is unconstitutional.
The act itself, which was passed, in criminalizing same-sex gender activity among adults in private, is in contravention of the principle of equality before the law, guaranteed under our Constitution.
While protests against the law have been ongoing around the world, it has also received broad support in the East African country. Critics say President Museveni signed the bill to win domestic support ahead of presidential elections scheduled for 2016, which will be his 30th year in power. Activists say they have mixed feelings about the success of the petition.
In the past, we've gone to the courts of law, and there's a degree of independence with the courts. This whole law itself has been hyped. It has been politicized. It has been popularized for different selfish reasons.
rights activists are now crossing their fingers that Uganda's courts will declare the new act unconstitutional. But even then, they still face an uphill battle of changing deeply entrenched cultural and religious beliefs that view homosexuality as wrong.
The ICC set a new date for the Crimes Against Humanity trial of Kenya's president. The International Criminal Courts pushed back the start of proceedings to October the 7th to give Nairobi more time to provide evidence. Now, Uhuru Kenyatta faces charges in connection to post-electoral violence in 2007, in which over 1,200 people were killed. Prosecutors allege that the witnesses against Kenyatta and his vice president, William Ruto, who's on trial on similar charges, have been intimidated into withdrawing their testimony. They also accuse Nairobi of failing to turn over incriminating evidence against the defendants. Now, at least 5 people have been killed in blasts in a Somali neighbourhood in Nairobi. The explosions happened Monday afternoon in Eastleigh. It's been targeted several times over the last year or so. Now, Kenya suffered from a ramping up in grenade attacks that have often been blamed on sympathisers with Somali militant group Al-Shabaab. Our Duncan Woodside is in the Kenyan capital. He joins us now. Duncan, what do we know about what happened today?
Well, I've just been to the scene of the blast in Eastleigh, in the Somali neighbourhood of Nairobi, the capital here in Kenya, and I've spoken to various people there, including a medic who says that he's seen the bodies of at least 6 people, and he says that there's probably more people within the 2 buildings which have been targeted. His estimate is that there's at least 10 who've died, with bodies yet to be recovered from those buildings. Now, it appears that what happened was that 2 grenades were rolled into restaurants, small hotels, which were quite close to each other, near a bank within Eastleigh.
Thanks very much. Duncan Woodside there for us in Nairobi. Now, every last Saturday of the month, Rwandans roll up their sleeves for Umuganda, National Day of Public Work, as the country gears up to celebrate the 20 years since the genocide. The last Umuganda sees President Kagame heading out before the cameras. Our correspondent sent us this report.
Even the president gets his hands dirty by taking part in Umuganda. Paul Kagame views such work as emblematic of Rwanda's culture.
People, Rwandans are working together, and so that it means unity and work at the same time. So in unity, we stand together and do some productive things.
National unity based on shared objectives. That's the mantra of Umuganda. 4 out of every 5 adult Rwandans take part, including ministers and even some foreign diplomats. This particular project involves building homes for genocide survivors.
When different people you are seeing here, even the president, even the authorities of the country come here in the Umuganda to build these houses for those genocide survivors. So what those genocide survivors keep in mind is that the government is close to them.
It's 11 a.m. The crowd awaits the president's speech. Unity, reconstruction, economic development. Paul Kagame sticks consistently to his favourite themes here, a week ahead of the 20-year commemoration of the genocide.
Now, the African Union's defended Chadian soldiers accused of killing more than 30 civilians in Central African Republic's capital over the weekend. The MISCA peacekeeping missions insisted that their troops were merely defending themselves from Christian militants blamed for escalating violence in the crisis-stricken country. It's been in turmoil since Muslim rebels launched a short-lived takeover last year, sparking an upswing in tit-for-tat attacks. The UN's concern about the upswing in bloodshed has been expressed today again, and the EU's been criticised for running behind in delivering peacekeeping troops. Well, Maeve Mahan is in Brussels with more on this for us. Maeve, now we've seen some movement on the front of the EU's efforts to get troops out to Central African Republic, but we're ways off yet from deployment.
Absolutely. It's been kind of slowly but surely movement. I mean, EU officials back in January said that the Central African Republic situation was the forgotten crisis, but we're yet to see European troops on the ground. The thing is, EU ambassadors have held already 5 force generation meetings, and only just at the last meeting last Friday did they finally come to a decision. Now, force generation meetings are held to decide which member states are going to pledge what regarding troops and logistical support. And Eastern countries had already pledged a number of troops, for example, Estonia and Poland, but due to the situation in the Ukraine, a number of states seem to have gotten cold feet, thinking really that they needed to sort out the security in their backyard, as opposed to sending it to the Central African Republic. But this weekend, they did finally endorse that mission, and in the next few days we will get more details, but it's likely we'll see between 500 and 1,000 European troops looking after the Bangui airport area and allowing the current 6,000 African Union troops that are out there and the current 2,000 French troops that are out there to relieve them so they can look after more serious areas. Now, this mission is likely to cost the European Union some 25.9 million euros and will last some 6 months.
Thanks very much, Mahan, there for us in Brussels. Well, that pretty much wraps up African news for me for now, but I will be back with more in about 45 minutes. Take care.